You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. So Brian Kelly had a press conference on Friday as LSU was back out on the practice field for their second workout in advance of the bowl game. For what it's worth, this is finals week at LSU, and I was told, so LSU has a roster with like who's going to be available for practice and who isn't, and it's like the players that are unavailable for practice, their names are in gray, and then it's obviously like white sheet of paper for the names that will be at practice, and like there was more than half the roster on Thursday in gray, and some of it was opt-outs and draft and all that. And a lot of guys were taking finals. On Friday, it was all that flipped, so you got most of your roster out there for final for practice on Friday. But while Brian Kelly was meeting with reporters on Friday, it was kind of during that time that the first portal commitment popped. And it's Oklahoma tight end Bauer Sharp. Now, we've talked about Bauer Sharp since the reported interest between the two, and of course Bauer Sharp making a visit to LSU. But this is massively significant because LSU has an enormous need at tight end. I phrased it as wants, needs, and musts. Like, you want to maybe go get an experienced running back. Like, you need to go get offensive linemen. You must address tight end. Mason Taylor gone to the draft. Kamorian Pimpton in the transfer portal. 3 of the guys you signed just 2 seasons ago were already gone. Pimpton now the 4th. You've got J.D. LaFleur coming in as a true freshman, but that's it for scholarship tight ends. The true freshman J.D. LaFleur coming in. This was not even arguable. Like, you had to absolutely must get 1, maybe 2 tight ends in this portal. Like, Brian Kelly was asked on Friday about practice, and like, he was asking, like, who's playing tight end? He joked. He's like, we got we got tons of tight ends, plenty of tight ends all over. But, like, here was his real answer.
Look, we'll have to be creative, but, we feel very comfortable that we can put, our offense in a position that will be very effective. And clearly we don't have, Mason, and he was a great target, but we're excited about the next step for him and, support him 1,000% in what his decision was. But we have other guys on our roster that are going to be able to step in, and we feel great about what they can do for us.
Okay, maybe you can move Trey'Dez Green back to tight end, and you've got Gabe Leonards and Giovanni Peterson, who are former walk-ons, who are playing tight end for you. And Peterson's interesting because he's played a bunch of special teams. Giovanni Peterson's played 62 snaps on kick return, 10 snaps on punt return, but just 1 on field goal PAT, but only 8 offensive snaps all season. He's played 81 snaps, again, most on special teams. That's a guy that's been around your program for 3 years and can go get on the field and be a blocker for you. But again, like, you don't have a scholarship tight end for the bowl game, and the only scholarship tight end on the roster for next year is the incoming freshman J.D. LaFleur. Well, now you add Bauer Sharp. So you can exhale now. It is exciting to talk about the transfer portal targets and the visits and all these top-tier players that are sort of interesting or interested, but you have to land these guys. 2 years ago, we were talking about Braden Fisk. Braden Fisk was this guy out of Western Michigan. He was the interior defensive lineman that everybody wanted, and LSU was a finalist for him. And, boy, the Tigers needed defensive tackle help, and sure, Braden Fisk is going to pick you. He went to Florida State and was awesome, by the way. Last year, man, you needed defensive tackle help. In the spring portal window, Dominic Williams from TCU, big defensive tackle target. Everybody wanted him. We all know what happened. He ended up at Oklahoma. Simeon Barrow ended up at Miami. Like, it's great to get the visits and to have the interest and to be on the list. You got to land the guys. And until you do, it's all speculation. Well, now you have. And you didn't just land a commitment. The paperwork's in. So Brian Kelly was able to talk openly about Bauer Sharp, who, if you don't remember, Bauer Sharp was a high school quarterback from Maryland. He signed with Southeastern Louisiana. They converted him to tight end. He spent 3 years at Southeastern before going to Oklahoma this year. Here was BK on Bauer Sharp.
First of all, he's a talented player, but he's got physicality, especially in the run game. You know, if you watch him closely, I mean, some of the things they did with him in the passing game, we've seen from other tight ends, right? But if you really look at his body of work, it's the physicality in the run game. Pulling, blocking tackles, out on the perimeter. Love his physicality in the run game. Still a very good athlete, came in as a quarterback at Southeast Louisiana and certainly has the ability to do some really good things in the passing game for us as well. But I think what really stood out was having that kind of versatility in the run game and the passing game.
6'4", 247. He's put together a really good athlete. We know he can catch the ball. He had 42 receptions for 324 and 2 scores. That led Oklahoma, which was the worst passing offense in the SEC. Oklahoma and Kentucky were the 2 worst passing offenses in the SEC, and he was their leading pass catcher. So he's athletic enough to affect the passing game, but as you heard Brian Kelly say twice in that soundbite, it's the physicality and the ability in the run game, which Brian Kelly wants in his tight ends. He doesn't want a glorified flex receiver. He wants someone that can also put their hand in the dirt to block, so you're not predictable by personnel. That's the type of tight end he's recruited and developed throughout his career. That's what Mason Taylor became. That's what guys at Notre Dame like Kyle Rudolph and Tyler Eifert were. Alize Mack, who the Saints drafted, who's bounced around the NFL a bit. That's what Brian Kelly wants. And that's what you're getting here in Bauer Sharp. There's a lot else to like about the Bauer Sharp news. Familiar with Louisiana, spent 3 years at Southeastern, as we mentioned. And he's familiar with the SEC. Not only having been at Southeastern, but playing this year at Oklahoma. Look, he played a game in Tiger Stadium a few weeks ago for Oklahoma, but he played an entire year in the SEC. So it's not like you're taking a guy and asking him to go from the FCS to the SEC. You're taking a guy that swam in SEC waters this past year, and now you're asking him to do it again. And he showed he belonged at Oklahoma. Now you're going to have him do it for you where you have immediate path to the field and you feature the tight end. I remember Kelly's first year, they signed 2 offensive linemen. They signed Miles Frazier and Tremont Shorts. And remember, Frazier obviously became great, 3-year starter, but Tremont Shorts was an FCS All-American. I believe East Tennessee State maybe was where Tremont Shorts came from. But the transition didn't happen, and you never really know for sure how that transition is going to work when you go up a level like that, or you go up 2 levels from FCS to then like G5 to FBS or Power 5. So you don't have to worry about that uncertainty because you've already seen him do it in this respect. And he's a guy that's played a ton of football. 36 games played. He started 22 career games. For context, he was in the same high school class as Garrett Nussmeier. They signed in college the same year. So this he's been around a long time. He's going to be a 5th-year player. You're talking about a 22-year-old, a grown dude who's coming into your program, who's played a ton of football, who can play in the SEC, who can catch, who can block. He is a complete tight end. He is plug and play. When we say plug and play, this is what it looks like. This is a starting tight end in the SEC. Boom, day one. So then you can bring up J.D. LaFleur behind him. You can use still Trey'Dez Green in a pass-catching flex-type role that you want. So that part of it is very exciting. But I still don't think you're done at tight end. Because when you look at next year, you've got Bauer Sharp now. And this is, he is signed. It's not just a commitment. Austin Thomas was in the press conference today, and Brian Kelly was asked about Bauer Sharp and said, "Can you talk about him?" And Brian Kelly looked at Austin Thomas and say, "Is it like, can I talk?" And Austin gave him a nod. So it's done. Like the paperwork's in, he's done, he's signed. So you've got Sharp, you've got J.D. LaFleur. Put an asterisk next to Trey'Dez Green, what position he plays. Same with Bo Bordelon, who this year he was an offensive lineman, but he would put on the 89 jersey and be an extra blocker as a tight end. So you could put an asterisk there. But I still think you need another one. I think you need another one. And so do you go into the JUCO ranks like you did when you got Connor Gilbreth? Do you wait till the spring portal window to see what else shakes after spring football? Maybe there's another tight end that hits the portal. You got to get one more. I mean, LSU, Brian Kelly wants 4 scholarship tight ends. Well, right now you got Sharp, J.D. LaFleur, and if you want to count Trey'Dez Green, that's 3. You got to get somebody else. So I think they'll add one more at tight end. It's just a matter of, Is it a glorified, is it basically an extra offensive lineman, just a big blocker? Is it a young player that can develop? We'll see, but this is massive. One of your musts, absolute musts, you check that box on Friday with Bauer Sharp's commitment and paperwork coming in. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.